Why have the cost of insurance premiums gone so expensive for homeowners insurance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a lot of factors that play into what your home insurance premium is going to be. Most of them are outside of your control. And so we try to make the most of those. And then some are inside of your control, but usually people find out after the fact and they learn how they could have kept it lower. So one of the biggest things is just inflation. So probably since 2020, we've seen a lot of inflation on everything. And insurance initially was low and it was behind the curve as far as raising rates. And then as they started to play catch up, it was kind of this exponential rise. And so we're still dealing with that. So rates are still going up because the replacement cost of homes is still rising without.
So the cost of build for the materials to replace it has gone up. Therefore, the coverage to replace that cost has gone up.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then, when a family gets displaced and has to get a rental home as well, rents may have doubled or gone up significantly. So now the insurance company is putting someone up in a rental home while their current home is getting fixed.
Oh, I didn't even consider
But with the labor shortage that we've had for skilled labor over the last few years and all this rapid, massive expansion in building, there's less people to put the new roof on the house because they're busy putting the new roof on the new house. And so now the time is longer. Right.
Oh,
so maybe it would have been a 6-month repair could turn into a several month or 6-month repair. And so the insurance companies are paying out a lot more than they had planned to pay. Most insurance companies use something
for temporary housing.
For temporary housing.
While you're displaced.
Right.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't considered. That makes a lot of sense. So what things can people do to help with their costs? Like what things specifically can they be on the lookout for to save themselves money?
Well, one thing is good to just shop, right, and get lots of options. And so it's good if you can work with a broker and they can shop multiple different companies because a lot of these are algorithm based. So it may not even be anything against you, Caitlin, as far as like where your house is. It could just be that insurance company has a lot of homes in that area. And so as much as the ads may make you think otherwise, they don't want everyone's business, right? State Farm doesn't want it all. Allstate doesn't want it all.
They want to be
spread out.
Yeah,
right. So no one wants to insure all of them in Park City and no one wants to insure all of them on the beach in Key West, Florida. They want to have a couple here and there and spread it out so that if there's a localized disaster, they don't lose their shirt. So you could have great credit, you could have, a good insurance score, you could never have filed claims, and you could have a house in a specific location with a certain company that has a lot of saturation.
They don't have an appetite for that particular policy, so they'll price themselves out of the market on purpose.
I see it all the time. They'll take it. They'll give you a price, and it'll say, we can't put them in a competitive rate, but we'll take your business. So they throw this number out that could be really high. And if you take it, they think, oh, okay, great. We got twice the going rate or some increased rate without even just outright declining you. So they'll take the extra money, so that's when it's good to shop. Yeah. You could also look at deductibles, see where you're comfortable on deductibles. I mean, it used to be common that everyone had maybe a $500 or $1,000 deductible on their home, but maybe homes were $100,000 or $200,000. I guess I'm dating myself.
Well, and $500 and $1,000 is just not worth what it once was either. Like $500 or $1,000 used to be a lot of money, and it just kind of has, like everything, become not as much money. So those deductibles are on the rise. Let's talk about what a deductible is.
Sure.
So something obviously to pay attention about what your deductible is. And I think people are probably somewhat familiar with it for their health insurance. But when does a deductible come into play for filing a claim on your homeowner's insurance?
Great. Yeah. So that's a great question. So when you make that phone call, and let's just pretend you had water coming in from that hailstorm and it was coming through your roof and there was some sort of damage to the roof. When you call up, they're going to want to get an idea of what's going on, but the deductible is going to come off of the repair. So let's say there's a $10,000 repair and you have a $1,000 deductible, you're going to come out of pocket $1,000 for that repair, and the insurance company will pick up the balance after that. So you do want to look at deductibles because it doesn't always make sense mathematically to go with the highest deductible.
And I think people are familiar with that on their car insurance. You have a little fender bender. Oh, it's $2,000 in damage. My deductible's $1,500. I'm not going to file a claim. But on the homeowner's insurance, I think people maybe don't have the same correlation. Would you agree?
Totally. So on homes, it's you don't get as many claims. So that's a really good point. So again, it's good if you can work with a broker and you can call the broker first before you call your insurance company.
Oh, that sounds important. Say that
That's
again.
huge. So if you can call someone to get maybe some advice or some clarity on whether you should file a claim or not.
Okay, so
That's
having someone
way
that
better.
you can actually reach out to versus maybe some of these big companies with an 800 number that are filing a claim as soon as you call.
Right.
Hey, Matt, I had this happen. Can you weigh it out for me? Does this make sense to file a claim and kind of ding my insurance score? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Because initially, when you look at something, it could be bad. You look at your water heater leaking, for example, and you think, oh my gosh, my house is flooded. Let me call my insurance company. Well, once you get into it, maybe you're able to clean it up, dry it out, and it turns out that there's not that much damage, or your deductible doesn't make sense to file. And what's happening right now is a lot of people are getting penalized for that zero claim payout. So it still shows up on your insurance score. So you could have one of those and then a real claim, and it shows as two claims, and you may not be insurable.
You
with certain
call the
companies.
insurance company and file a claim. They deem that your deductible doesn't even get reached in the amount of damage. They don't even pay out, but you're kind of getting the black mark
Right.
for that claim. Oh, that's good to know.
So it's actually kind of the worst case scenario, right? Because you didn't get any money,
Right?
and it's costing you money on your next policy.
And it's costing
so
you
always
money.
see if you can reach out first and find out, like, hey, here's what we're looking at damage-wise. We've got about $1,500 in damage. Let's pretend our deductible's $1,000. Should we file a claim? And of course, that's going to be up to you. You can file that claim. Just realize that that $500 that you get could potentially be paid back rather quickly and increase in premiums as well on renewals. So not that you don't want to use your insurance, because you have it for a reason, but you just want to make sure that you're using it for the right things. Insurance is really best for catastrophic. It's good for little things, but it costs you more on the little things. And so you definitely want to have it. You definitely
Cost
need it.
versus worth thing. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And a lot of home insurance companies will take up to 2 claims in a 5-year period.
Okay,
You know?
for getting new insurance, or
Yeah.
whether they'll even cancel the coverage you have.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
you could get dropped after you have 2 claims on your home. Generally, you get more claims on your auto.
See, we used
but-
to kind of see this with pre-existing conditions with health insurance. And I know that Obamacare really kind of did away with that. But home insurance, that's something I didn't consider, that you're really getting denied coverage based on your prior claims history.
Correct. So they look at frequency of claims. You could have small claims. You could have a couple small, $2,000 claims, but you start stacking those up, and their algorithms is going to suggest that maybe this person's going to file the next big one. We should probably get rid of this risk while we can.
And
So-
even though you've only necessarily received a couple of $2,000 payouts, your premiums are going up incrementally.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where the insurance market right now, it's called a hard market. And so we're about 3.5 years into a hard market. I think it's the longest hard market that we've had in the last 50 years. So hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Because of insurance payouts that they've had for disasters and things.
That's the other thing that we didn't cover. Yeah, so we have the inflation piece, but last year there was over $25 billion plus disasters in the United States. So the Maui fires was one, Hurricane Ian was another. So you start adding up all these, and insurance companies collectively have paid out over $1 billion on these disasters. And so part of it's that it costs more to replace something, so there's more $1 billion ones, but it seems that there's also a greater frequency of them. So that's something that's outside your control. And those types of claims don't affect you as much as certain types. So it also depends on the type of claim that you're filing as to how it affects your insurance score. So when you're buying a new home with Caitlin and you're getting your home, they're going to look at the number of claims on the house that you're buying. So if you're buying an existing home and the previous owners have had some claims, that factors into the price.
So you're buying
And you didn't even file the claim.
a home at 123 Adams Street from the Joneses. The Joneses had a prior claim. The Smiths, who are purchasing Jones's home, they look at that past coverage on that house that you're purchasing. Is that
That claim will be factored into the new premium.
Interesting.
And so insurance companies look at it as a risk. So let's just
Which
say
obviously doesn't happen with a car. When you buy a Volvo
Right.
from Peter, you're not inheriting Peter's driving record.
accident.
But for a home,
yes.
you're getting that home's history from their insurance.
Right. So the insurance company is going to say, oh, there was a roof leak. There was a big ice dam 2 winters ago, and that was repaired. But they're wondering, was it repaired correctly? Is there going to be another ice dam on a separate part of the roof that wasn't repaired? Or plumbing, they fixed that piece of the plumbing that broke, but is there more galvanized or older plumbing in the house that could be a factor? And so they look at the home's claims, and then they look at the individual buying. So they're actually looking at 2 different things, and they look at the individual for the propensity to file a claim. So if you've had some claims, but you're buying a brand new house, it's still going to affect you, even though the plumbing's all new in the new house. They've seen that you've filed lots of claims for theft or for whatever on your other house, and that's going to factor into what your insurance score is. So
let's talk about insurance score. I think that's somewhat of a newer term that I've heard about. What things are factored in to someone's insurance score?
It's a few things, and different companies program their algorithms differently. But insurance companies nowadays are looking at your credit score without us actually pulling your credit. They can see if you're on time with your payments or if you've been not. They're looking at the number of claims, the dollar amount of your claims, and the type of claims.
And for homeowners insurance, are they taking into account like automobile insurance as well? Do the 2 of those, meet for what those premiums are costing you?
Good question. I think if you're bundling, there's going to be some correlation there, but generally on the homes, they're looking at the type of claims that you're doing on your homes.
And you usually get a discount if you bundle, right?
Correct.
And a bundle is just having those 2 types of insurance through the same carrier?
Correct.
Okay.
A lot of times it is going to save you money if you do home and auto together.
Okay.
But if you're using a broker and they can shop some companies out for you a la carte that just do home, or some companies that just do auto, sometimes those companies that specialize in a certain area might have some aggressive pricing, and it's worth taking a look at. And oftentimes, I'd say probably a third or so of the time or more, I'm able to find someone the best total package by going auto with one company, home with
Okay,
another.
so it's not always the best thing to do to bundle, but shopping is super important.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's talk about features in a home that maybe are becoming expensive to insure, or things that they could add that maybe would add some savings. Like an alarm system, I think brings you some savings.
Yes.
Anything else that costs more money or brings that cost down?
Yeah, so alarms are a good idea. They're going to most companies give a discount for an alarm system, depending on where you are, as far as like the wildfire score or the protection class, which is just how likely is it to be caught up in a forest fire, right? So on those homes, sometimes a fire suppression system. Some homes, like in Summit County, require that kind of thing to have that installed. So when you have fire suppression inside, that can give you a discount. Another big one that's becoming more popular on homes that has been required on some types of vacation homes and things like that, and secondary homes, is a water leak detection and automatic shutoff.
Okay, because you're not there a lot, and
Right.
the damage can be really great if you've been away.
Right, or if a pipe breaks and you're gone for the weekend, and you could do tens of thousands of dollars of damage, and that's your primary home, but you're gone for the weekend and you come back to a flooded basement. And so those types of things, insurance companies are looking at a lot more with all the smart technology, and it'll notify you on your phone, and you can get home right away, but it's already turned the water off, and so you can mitigate some damage there. So that's another one.
Something that you think about that I didn't realize it could be something you could add to your water heater, or things
Correct.
like that. Okay.
Yeah, throughout the house. So, and then also along those lines, with the security system, you can actually have it tied into fire as well.
Okay, which
So-
mine is at my house.
Okay, and those ones are monitored by usually a company, and those can give you some discounts.
Okay, so
So-
that's good to know. What about like solar panels? Those have raised popularity. Are you seeing any impact in insurance scores for or against having solar panels?
It'll raise your insurance a little bit just because of the value. So let's say you have
Okay,
a
the value.
$50,000 setup on your roof. You'll want that covered, in case you get a terrible hailstorm or something like that.
Ruin
So
those panels.
So that's something that you want to let your company, the guy that you're working or gal that you're working with, know. There's not a whole lot of other discounts available. There's some little things, but usually it just comes down to underwriting, and whether you have a trampoline or not, or whether you have a type of dog breed or not, or
Okay, let's talk about the dogs, because you know that I'm a dog person.
that's right. Yep.
That comes into play. Whether or not you've got a dog, there's some insurance companies that won't insure you. Is that just because they're worried about having to cover a claim for a bite, or what
Great question.
kinds of things?
Yeah, I think of all the companies I work with, I think all of them will accept dogs, but some don't accept certain types of breeds.
Certain breeds.
So if it's a breed that they deem that could be problematic, they may decline it. Others may just rate it a little bit higher. But you definitely want to let your insurance person know if you have dogs, because that's a big number of claims every year with insurance companies. It's over $1 billion in claims every year are dog bites. And so if they don't know that you have a dog, or you say that you don't have a dog but you do, you just want to make sure come claim time you've filled it out as accurately as
And
possible.
it's got to be accurate.
Right, exactly.
Matt, when you buy a car, you can get the history from a Carfax report. Is there something similar when you buy a house, that you know if you're inheriting a bunch of insurance claims before you get too far down the rabbit hole with a particular purchase?
Sure. Yeah. When you're selling a home, you have to provide a clue report, right? So you're gonna just acknowledge,
Like Clue, like Detective Clue?
kind of like that. It's going to be a comprehensive loss underwriting exchange. And so if you've had any losses in the last, it might say 5 years. So if you've had maybe a lightning strike or a water leak or an ice dam or any of those kind of things, you're supposed to list all those things out.
Okay.
And so that people know kind of what they're getting into. Insurance companies all talk to each other. So if someone files a claim for any kind of covered loss,
Oh, that's something I hadn't thought of.
they
Insurance
all
companies
communicate.
collaborate.
They collaborate.
Okay.
And so they know if something's had a payout, or they know if something's just had a call in that insurance company recorded that someone had some wind damage. Whether you take the money or not, or have an adjuster come out or not, they've made a record that, hey, there was some wind damage on this date, and it comes out on this report. For the insurance companies.
We get some seller disclosures usually as part of a purchase contract. When you're dealing with a real estate agent, they're usually pretty good to get some seller disclosures. It's kind of like a history on the house and when was the roof replaced, and have there been water damage. How could someone obtain a Clue report? Is that just something that the homeowners insurance agents are getting, or is it something that can be looked up?
Yeah, I think they generally get them through the realtor. Your realtor, the seller's agent is gonna provide that to the buyer's agent, and then you can kind of see if there's been some loss history or not.
Okay.
And so sometimes it's a surprise.
Something to
sometimes it's
ask
not.
for. The Clue report on the house.
Yep.
Big deal. It's like getting a background check on your potential dates. So it sounds important.
That's right. Yep.
Got to know the history.
Gotta know the history. Yeah, it's good. Insurance companies care about, if
Well,
there's-
does this thing flood every spring? Does it,
Right.
things about that you should maybe kind of know
Right.
before buying a house?
Yep.
Is it true you get dinged sometimes for just even calling the insurance company? They just like pretend that you filed a claim. How do you get information without getting harmed?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. It probably depends on who's picking up the phone on the other end and the different. There's so many different insurance companies and what their protocol is, but you may want to just call up and get some general information about a potential claim.
So withhold your specific policy information so they aren't entering notes.
If you can, and you think it's kind of on the verge, you think, okay, I've got a $1,500 deductible. I think I've got about $2,000 in damage. I just want to call and get some generalizations. Maybe call up and ask and say, hey, if I had a water heater that leaked, and I'm looking at about $2,500 in damage, and just see if they could give you any advice without necessarily
Opening
giving up
that
your policy
claim.
number, just because I do see a lot of zero payouts, and so the zero payouts do show up on your insurance score, and so if you're not going to collect any money, you might as well not.
So for
open
me
up that
personally,
claim.
I have always chosen to use a local insurance agent. I have stayed away from going to like an 800 number group where you get someone across the country and someone different every time that you call. I've really found value in having a name and a face for someone that handles my personal insurance needs. And if what I'm hearing is right, like, this sounds super valuable, that your clients can call you up, say, hey Matt, I had this scenario. You would basically help them to say whether it's worth it to file a claim or not. Am I understanding that right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I always leave the choice up to you, but here's
Sure.
the pros and cons. You've already had, for example, one claim 2 years ago. This claim is going to be a couple grand. Your deductible's $1,000. Do you think it's something that you would want to do on your own, or do you want to file that claim and then let you kind of decide? But just help educate on kind of what the insurance market's looking like. Hey, it's really tough in your area to find insurance, or hey, it's really easy. We've got lots of carriers that we can shop with. Ultimately, we're going to do everything we can to find you coverage. So if you need to file that claim financially, it's the best interest for you, then you need to do it.
So having an advocate and someone that understands your insurance needs
Correct.
and can help you come up with that scenario, it sounds really valuable. So is insurance really just kind of a loan?
Well, I mean, I think some people can consider it that. It's technically not a loan, but let's just talk about small claims, for example. Let's just talk about auto insurance for fun. Let's say you have roadside assistance on your auto, and you have a frequency of using it, and you get towed, or you use the lockout service, or maybe you have the glass coverage on your auto and you get a little rock chip going down 15, and so as a good steward of your car and a good steward of your insurance, you think, you know what, I should probably use my little app and get that chip repaired and have the insurance company pay for it. All good things, and you would think that that would make a lot of sense, but those little claims can then start to compound as far as when the insurance company looks at you and they can raise your rates on the renewal or drop you altogether. And so you just want to be careful on the smaller ones, because while they'll go ahead and pay for that,
Okay, wait, they're selling like rock chip repair on every corner. They want you to file a claim on your insurance. You're
Well-
telling me those add up?
absolutely. And of course, the insurance companies and the glass companies are not necessarily on the same team. So if you're getting incentivized to get that rock chip replaced or repaired, maybe talk to your agent first and say, is this a good idea,
Interesting.
or should I pay for this out of pocket? Just because in the insurance market that we're in right now, where rates are high, inflation is high, and everything's high, well, you may want to just pay for those types of things out of pocket.
So the windshield folks are trying to sell windshields by getting you to claim it on your insurance, but that's maybe not the best practice.
Probably not. I would
Interesting.
definitely get some advice on that first. And the same thing with the roadside assistance. I'll go ahead and sell for AAA here. I think if you break down, that's unfortunate, but if you can call a friend or a family member, that's ideal. If you can just purchase AAA on your own, roadside assistance, that's even better, because
My mom gives
AAA
us AAA for our birthdays every year, and
Good
believe
mom.
it or not, we use it, and it's
Yeah.
great.
And what's great about AAA is AAA does not tell your insurance company.
Oh, good to know.
So you can get towed once or twice or 3 times a year, and your rates with your insurance will never go up. So definitely look at things like that. We can even tie it back into home insurance. I was on the phone with someone, and we were going over some claims, and they had a jewelry loss claim on their home insurance, and that's affecting their premiums right now on their getting quotes on this home. And so that's another thing you can do if you have a good agent you're working with or a broker, is just see if there's certain things that you can maybe farm out separately. So for example, on jewelry, you can go with a separate company altogether called Jewelers Mutual. It's going to be about the same price of paying that jewelry protection on your home policy, but if you do have a loss on your ring or theft or damage or something like that and you file a claim, your home insurance doesn't know about it because they don't report to
It's
the
not
insurance
linked.
companies.
Interesting.
Right. So now
So-
it's not a homeowner's claim.
Oh, that's so good to know, because
So-
I have a policy for my ring, and I thought I lost it a couple of years ago, and I called my insurance company in tears. Thankfully, they said, you totally are covered, but let's just give you a second, see if you find it. Nick and I were in the process of moving, and thankfully it did turn up, but that's
Yeah.
really good to know.
Yeah, just an option. But it would have helped this lady to have a separate policy.
Separate policy.
As opposed to it being attached to her homeowner's insurance.
And that roadside assistance being a little separate.
Yeah, have that separated out too, because that's going to So that's why I say it can feel like a loan on these smaller claims when you have a claim and then you see your rates potentially go up. You can see yourself paying back that money that you received on that smaller claim rather quickly. And so it could have felt like you got the money up front, but then you paid it back anyway.
That's
so
why people say insurance
that's why
is a
someone
loan.
could say it's a loan.
That makes sense. So as much as we hate paying for insurance, it's really a good idea to have the right coverages in place.
Yeah, it's one of those, I've heard, necessary evils.
Sure.
Right? So you've got to have it. And so if you're going to have it, you might as well have the stuff that's actually going to cover you adequately and pay out when you do need it. There's nothing worse than having insurance and then finding out that you're not covered for a certain type of claim that you wish you had.
So we talked about getting a good deal for insurance and really needing to be shopping for insurance. What information should the consumer have when they go to shop insurance, and when's a good time?
Yeah, so if you're looking for some comparisons on what you already have, just bring in your declaration pages. A lot of people are buying a new house for the first time, so they may not have something. So just come to me with the address, and we can do the rest. We can figure it out for you. I would encourage you to not, as hard as it's going to be, not go to some online service first, because that is where they sell your information. So if you, it's going to be hard, but if you can go to someone, like for example, when we take your information, we don't sell your information. So we can shop you against several dozen different companies, and then those individual companies are never going to reach out to you individually. But when you just go to Google late at night and you start typing in your address and you start asking for quotes, and then you give them your email address or your phone number, that is a lead generator. And so it's just kind of industry standard for insurance agents
So
to
they
buy.
shotgun it out to everyone buying those leads.
Yeah, and so well, you might get some prices from their website. It might say, hey, here's a bunch of different companies, and here's some different pricing, and you're not going to get the final price then anyway, without
Talking
doing some
to
extra
someone.
work, right? But be ready for a lot of phone calls, just because a lot of insurance agents buy internet leads. And so when you go to the internet, put your information in, it turns into a lead, they buy that lead, and then you have people from different companies contacting you.
You know, we've
So,
really run into that with mortgage applications for when we pull their credit
Yeah.
having been a problem, and we've had like an opt-out conversation so that they aren't getting bombarded with those calls. That's a good point. When you're shopping for insurance, make sure that you're not going to a lead gen spot where you're going to get, you know, just harassed by everyone under the sun trying to sell you insurance.
Right.
Interesting. So when you're shopping, anytime's a good time. You don't have to be at policy renewal to make sure that you're getting a good deal. Any time you think that you might be able to save some money, reach out to a local agent. I mean, you probably want to know your vehicle's car makes, models, and some details about your house, but you don't need to have all of your insurance records to get started.
You don't have to. It helps if you do, but we can pull a lot of that together for you.
Awesome.
And so generally, with rates increasing right now, about a month before your policy renews, you'll get the new term. And so that would be the most accurate comparison to see what the next term is going to be price-wise, and then we can shop that and see if we can find some savings in there for you.
Matt, this has been really valuable. I learned a lot, even though I have dealt with insurance for decades. And thank you for coming and taking some time to explain to some of our viewers some things that will help them. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, I've got a phone number and I've got an email address that we'll provide, and love to be of service to you.
Wonderful. Thanks so
Cool.
much.
Thanks.